This is Faith Encouraged with Father Barnabas Powell. Homilies designed to help you live a purposeful and faith-filled life in Jesus Christ. Here's Father Barnabas.
Good morning. Christ is risen. Christos anesti. Christ is risen. And happy Mother's Day, by the way. In 1980, there was a movie that came out of, I was so tempted to say Hollyweird, but that brings me to another place. I'm not going to go there. Hollywood made a movie called Urban Cowboy. And the theme song of that movie was one that was a very catchy tune. It said, "Looking for love in all the wrong places. Searching for love in too many faces." And it was a very popular song at the time. But as I look over our society today, I see something extremely serious and extremely familiar. Because it is true, dear ones. We live in a society that is hungry for love. The challenge becomes, how do we know what that is? The challenge becomes, how do we recognize it when we see it? How do we avoid looking for love in all the wrong places and all of the consequences and all of the rhythm of life that those mistakes create? We do live in a very hungry time. Perhaps not physical hunger. The truth is, our society is one of the most affluent societies that have ever existed on the planet. This is an affluent society. But the hunger that I'm talking about today is exactly what Jesus was talking about when the disciples said, "Rabbi, eat." And Jesus tells them, "I have food that you don't know about." Oh, has somebody given him something to eat? And of course, swing and a miss by the disciples again. What are you going to do? "No, son, you don't understand. My true food is to do the will of him who sent me." That's true food. The hunger I'm talking about today in our society that is being fulfilled in a million different ways as men work 80 and 90 and 100 hours a week to gather stuff to themselves that they will not hold on to. They will die one day, and every bit of that stuff is going to go to somebody else. I mean every dollar. Uncle Sam will get his share, trust me. Men and women are thinking that if I can just be famous, and so now, as Andy Warhol said many years ago, everybody's going to be famous for 15 minutes. I think it's dropped down to 5 minutes by this time. Why, there are people on the internet, on YouTube, that become what they're calling micro-celebrities. Someone called me that the other day. "You're a micro-celebrity." I said, "Well, I'm not so small." And so we're hungry in this society. We hunger for significance. It's fascinating to me to look at the gospel lesson today and see the difference between what men hunger for and women hunger for. It's a perfect picture in our gospel lesson today that shows us the different kinds of hungers that we humans express. The men were worried that Jesus had some food. The woman wanted never to come to the well and have to draw again because it was embarrassing for her because of the lifestyle she'd led. By the way, you know who this lady is in our story, don't you? Saint Photini. That's her name, by the way. "Oh, Father, how do you know her name?" "Because the church told me her name." And guess what? The church always gets the benefit of the doubt. Always. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. You don't want to give the church the benefit of the doubt? You're going to live a miserable life. If you don't give the church the benefit of the doubt, brothers and sisters, in your life, you will live a life confused as to what true priorities ought to be. Period, full stop, end of discussion. Mark my words, if you don't give the church the benefit of the doubt, you will live a life confused about true priorities and what true happiness is and what true love is. She wanted to not have to come and draw anymore. By the way, this woman became not only a great apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ, she also became a martyr. By the way, she was also a mom, because you see, when she was martyred for the faith, her son died with her. So what a wonderful lady to hold up to us today on this precious Mother's Day, Saint Photini, and how she expressed her hunger. So I'm not so much worried that people are hungry today, spiritually hungry, because that's a good sign. I'm not so much worried that people are looking for love in all the wrong places. At least they're still looking. I'm concerned about the people who, the two kinds of people who are gripped by the deepest delusion in our society today. Are you ready? The first person is a person who thinks they're not hungry at all when they're starving to death. The men and the women who are so spiritually blind and spiritually deaf and spiritually dumb that they can't recognize the deep spiritual hunger that exists in their own heart for God. Those men and women live lives of frivolous mediocrity. Those men and women live lives where they're constantly searching to fill what the 90s group said, fill that God-shaped hole inside of each of us. Because you're not going to overcome that with any other food than the food that is offered to you by the faith once for all delivered to the saints. I'm worried about the men and women who don't think they're hungry. I'm worried about the men and women who live their lives in quiet desperation, completely oblivious to the true deep and spiritual realities that God offers us here in the faith. I'm worried about those folks because they will pass into eternity starving to death, and the hunger that they have never satisfied will ill suit them for the eternity that awaits all of us. The second person that I'm concerned about, not just the person that doesn't realize they're hungry, but the other person who thinks, I have fulfilled myself with the food that I really need. And they've got the wrong food. They've got the wrong food. They've got the wrong water. They're thirsty, but they're drinking from water that will not quench their thirst. They're eating food, but they're eating food that will never ultimately fulfill them and nourish their true spiritual lives. But they think they're fine. And in their delusion, they're consuming all kinds of water and food that doesn't really feed them. It reminds me of what my mom used to worry about. Because, and my youngest daughter, pray for her, my youngest daughter has my sickness. Catherine comes up to me all the time and says, Daddy, yes dear, I love candy. I said, you do? You love candy? I love candy, Daddy. May I have candy? No, sweetheart. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. But we humans are like that. We Americans are like that especially because we really think that if I can just maintenance my hunger with the empty calories of mediocrity, I'll be fine. And you won't be fine. The woman at the well discovered that there was a different kind of water that could actually quench her thirst so well that in fact, when she drank of this water, it would actually start bubbling up inside of her so that it would never run out. That woman was very interested in that kind of water. I want that water. Tell me where that well is dug so I don't have to be thirsty anymore. But I love Saint Photini because she never gave up. She had a wrecked life. The reason why she was coming to the well by herself is because none of the respectable women would go with her. The reason why she was going to the well at the 6th hour of the day, when it was the hottest part of the day, was because all the other women went at the coolest part of the day, but they wanted nothing to do with her because of her lifestyle. And yet, this broken, confused woman, desperate for love, comes in contact with Jesus Christ and is forever liberated and changed. Isn't it amazing to you? It is to me. That everybody we read about who are heroes in the Scriptures are usually people who have really messed up their lives. I love what Jesus said about that. He said it's the well don't need a physician, it's the sick that need the physician. The sad part about it is that there are many who think they are well that are not. There are many who think they are fine and that they're fed and that they're not thirsty, who are really starving to death spiritually and thirsting to death for the water of true life. And because of their blindness to their own hunger, they live a life without any regard whatsoever to the spiritual things of the world. And so when they come to that place where they pass from this life to the next, they are completely ill-suited for the eternity that awaits us all. No wonder Jesus tells both the woman at the well, if you knew who was talking to you, you'd ask for the water of life. No wonder he told the disciples, I have food you do not realize. No wonder Jesus then goes on to say, look at the fields. They are white unto harvest. Forsyth County and Cumming, Georgia, are literally littered with hundreds of men and women. By the way, did you know that we crossed the 200,000 mark in population this year? 204,000 people in Forsyth County. And we're the 7th wealthiest county in the United States. Did you know that? So I expect the offering to start reflecting that reality. No, I'm just teasing you. 204,000 people in this county, and men and women right now have planted in the midst of this county a way station, a well of living water, of spiritual food that can satisfy all their hunger, and it's right here in this place. The fields are white unto harvest. Men and women in this county are hungry and they're thirsty, and we have the water and we have the food. May God deal with us ever so harshly if we foolishly pass through this life and not offer this generously to every man, woman, boy, and girl that we come in contact with. May God deal with us ever so harshly if we foolishly reduce this faith to nothing but a nostalgic event or just a club only belonging to certain people. Saint Photini was a stranger. Saint Photini was Kseni. Saint Photini was a Samaritan. And she left this life a hero. I wonder this morning, on this Mother's Day, are you spiritually thirsty? Do you have a spiritual hunger inside of you that you're trying to meet in a million different ways that all have failed? May I invite you to embrace with joy this food and this drink that changes a man or a woman into a companion of God and makes a Samaritan woman a bringer of the light. Saint Photini.
Father Barnabas is the priest at the Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene Greek Orthodox Church in Cumming, Georgia. Find out more at faithencouraged.org. That's faithencouraged.org.